SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Toyota of Brookhaven has been voted best new car dealership in Southwest Mississippi 4 years in a row. Come see the difference. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at toyotabrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota of Brookhaven, we deliver.
And now, Sports.
Get ready, sports fans. It's time for Chasing Foul Balls on SuperTalk Pike County 93.5 and streaming worldwide on the SuperTalk Mississippi app and on your Amazon Alexa devices. Chasing Foul Balls, your weekly source for all the sports news and interviews important to Southwest Mississippi. Chasing Foul Balls is presented by First Bank. And now, here's your host, Robbie Hamilton.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of Chasing Foul Balls right here on SuperTalk Pike County 93.5. With us this morning, our guest, the head coach of the Co-Lin Wolves, who won a ball game last night, Coach Micah Davis, and the sports director of WGNO-TV, Richie Mills, will be with us. One thing real quick to remind you that if you know some folks that are outside the radio listening area of SuperTalk Pike County, or maybe at work and don't have the radio, they can't listen to Chasing Foul Balls. Go to SuperTalk Pike County. Just click on the Listen Live, and you can listen to our program every Friday morning right here on SuperTalk Pike County. Well, let's go to work. Big day yesterday in community college. Co-Lin gets another win. They beat East Central 28-3 last night. Of course, Southwest does not play till tomorrow night. It's homecoming at Southwest at John Ihurst Stadium. They take Old Jones Community College High School last night. A very strange score for a high school game. Lloyd Star defeats Franklin County by the score of 9-7. And in the NFL game last night, it was the Chargers defeating the Vikings. Boy, they ran it up on them, 37-10, the final score in that one. With me this morning, back from I reckon, was it 2 weeks sabbatical?
2 weeks.
Ooh,
Yep.
2 weeks. Been a long time.
It wasn't a sabbatical. It was.
Oh, it wasn't. Excuse me.
Injured reserve.
One weekend was. The other weekend was. It was enjoyment, but it's a lot of work.
I thought I'd used a big word. Then you'll tell me I used it wrong. Man, I tell you back. Richard Hay with us this morning. How are you, TP?
I'm always good, Robbie.
To my right, sitting in the chair of the professor. So you got the smart chair today.
I feel a little more knowledgeable today. It just radiates over here.
You look smarter.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Young gun with us, Wes Dudley. How are you, sir?
Oh, we doing great, Robbie.
That's good. Let's go to work. First thing to talk about today. Last week we had questions to ask. Today we're going to talk about coaches, not only football coaches and not only college coaches, but a couple of things that happened in baseball I want to get to. So let's go right to work on that. The first thing first, Richard and Ricketts part of years there. It's very seldom that you see a college coach win a game on Saturday and get fired on Sunday. But that's what happened to Billy Napier of Florida.
Robbie, as you follow sports, I think everybody knew last week, at least from what came out about was Monday or Tuesday, about the news article that somehow got leaked to the public, that Billy Napier's days in Florida were over with, almost regardless of what the outcome of the game was. And nobody said it, but obviously if State would have won, it made the job a lot easier. Or if they played really bad, it made it a little bit easier. But it was going to happen. And my weekend in Columbus, Georgia, talking with friends and family over there and other sports people, I told them, I said, there ain't no thinking about it. It's going to happen. And then when the game turned out like it did, and you just waited for the hammer to fall on Monday, and it did. And now Florida's put their name in the long list of schools looking for a head football coach, and there'll be more. So I don't know if it's a good year to be looking for one. My opinion, Florida's program with all that, it's probably taken a notch. Now, it was way up there, but it's taken a notch step back from their championship days.
Wes, now the question, will Lane Kiffin go to Florida? Supposedly, the two choices were Notre Dame head coach, Ole Miss head coach to replace Napier. Supposedly, Notre Dame head coach has said, no, thank you, I don't need the job. So that brings us down to number 2, and that the Florida folks have put all their money in the basket to go after Lane Kiffin. If I said 0 chance that he leaves Ole Miss, 50% chance he leaves Ole Miss, 75% chance he leaves Ole Miss. I give you those 3 numbers. What do you say?
I say it's certainly not over 50, in my opinion, if not even a little less than that, because, Florida is obviously a big-time job and a big-time recruiting ground and all that, but Ole Miss has given Lane Kiffin everything he's asked for. They've opened the wallet. They've invested in facilities. They're ahead of the curve on NIL. All due respect to Florida, to my knowledge, they have not put any money in the swamp in quite a while. It's very dated by today's facility standards. So I'm not so sure it's a slam dunk that if Florida comes calling, Lane leaves.
Real quick, Richard.
I would agree. I guess everybody has a number at some point in time, and we've seen a lot of money being thrown around or thrown away. I guess if a guy's leaving, if you're paying him $50 million to walk off, or in this case, Florida got a break. I think Napier was only like 10 or 15, 20, somewhere in that range.
Only $15 million.
But only, somebody give me that much, I wouldn't work either,
That's what I'm saying.
But I agree with Wes. With all that Lane has invested in Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has invested back, and where their program stands right now, they haven't made the playoff yet. Their national moniker, if you will, is right now, if you ask the general public across, it's way higher than Florida is, obviously.
But
so why wouldn't you go after the coach? But if I'm Lane, he's going to get a good pay raise one way or the other.
Where can you win a national championship, Ole Miss or Florida? I reckon that maybe comes down to the question for Lane Kiffin.
As much as I hate to admit it, because you guys know where my loyalties lie, who's to say they don't have just as good a chance these days as Florida? With all the transfer portal and the hopping around and the paying players, they got pockets just like Florida does.
Well, the thing about Kiffin is whenever the NIL or the collective or whatever that was, it was in its infancy. He jumped on it immediately. And now can you continue that now that everybody else is in the game? Because remember, there's 2 other schools in Florida, not counting the smaller South Florida. There's Miami and Florida State. Miami's having a little bit of a rebound. Florida State started off great with the big win over Alabama, but they've kind of faded a little bit. But as you said, just the state of Florida. And Lane Kiffin's connections and people that want to come play for that type of style, it would be something that you would want to have. I just don't know if he does it.
A strange baseball happening in coaches is that Tony Vitello leaves Tennessee and goes straight to the pros to be the manager of the San Francisco Giants. You don't see that very often, Richard, that you leave college and don't make a step somewhere in the minors or a bench coach or something, that you go from being a head coach in college straight to being the head man of a San Francisco Giants of the major leagues.
No, you don't, Robbie. I think it's the first time it's ever been done. And when we'd heard the rumblings, I guess, back middle of the season when the Giants were, they made a couple big trades and they didn't really pan out as far as putting them in the playoffs. And, we're going to make a coaching change. Well, Vitello's name's come up several times because of what he's done at the University of Tennessee. But the University of Tennessee and managing those young 19 to 22-year-olds is a lot different than handling those 34-year-olds that are veterans that have done things this way. And how you motivate them is way different than how you motivate 19, 20 that want to get to the big leagues. These guys are in the big leagues. And that's going to be the dynamic that I watch, is how much reaction to the way he coaches, unless he changes, and I don't see that happening, how that applies to major leaguers. And I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch.
Kevin O'Sullivan, Wes, the head coach of Florida in baseball, has taken a personal leave of absence. They don't give any dates as far as when he may try to return. There's another one at a program that's has been or is going again to be the top of the program. Needs a baseball coach, or is without a baseball coach right now, I reckon I should say.
Well, I hope hope Kevin O'Sullivan's getting a little bit of anger management in his time away, because he
you can't believe that. Man.
I mean, he certainly did not make himself look very good the way he acted in that regional this past spring. So there's more to the story there. I don't know what it is. We'll be interested to see if it comes out. But the timing of that one's just as interesting as Vitello to me.
What other one we need to get to in this first segment? High school-wise, middle of the season, Lance Pogue, the head coach of Brandon, resigns. Use the word you want to use there, whatever it happens. But he's gone in the middle of a high school football season. It's unusual that you see it happen, Wes, but it's really unusual when you see it happen at one of the top programs in the state.
Yeah, that might be the most surprising aspect of it all, Robbie. Is Brandon is one of the best jobs in this state, and for them to move on from a guy right in the middle of a season, you don't see that at those kind of programs.
I agree. We all knew the timing of it lends a lot more to what the general public knows. Now, maybe we find out. We can all speculate, and I did kind of the same thing we did here right before we went on the air this morning. All the reasons why. Okay, well, you didn't get along with this person, or you didn't get along with this group, and you were going to do it your way, and somebody said, no, we're not going to do it that way. Well, eventually you get to a point where, like, okay, now which one dropped the hammer about which way, I don't know. But resigned or retired, whichever story you want to believe, is where it's at. And as you said, there's a lot more to that story, but Lance Pogue is a free agent right now.
We talked last week about the highest paid college coaches. Of course, this week, Kurt Signetti of Illinois gets a new contract, moves all the way to the third highest paid coaches at $11.6 million. Wes, that's pretty good payday right there.
Get it while you can get it, baby.
You get it
while the iron's hot, you better strike.
Who would have ever thought we would say in one sentence that the highest paid college football coach was a football coach at Indiana? We could have asked that question last year. Oh, no.
They wouldn't even been in the top 10.
I guarantee you wouldn't have been, but it's amazing what boosters that want to win will do.
Running a little late, but let me get to this last thing. Head coach that will come out of retirement or that is not employed right now. Real quick, who would be the first one? Jimbo Fisher, Coach O, or John Gruden?
Well, I'd say Coach O is probably the most vocal about wanting to come out right now, so I would have to pick him with a 3.
Oh gosh, Robbie, that's a tough one. I'd probably pick Jimbo Fisher. I think he's been the one that's been more publicly kind of pushing his name out there. Gruden's name's always floated every time something's out there, but I just wouldn't see John Gruden doing that. Now, money always talks, as we know, but I'd say Fisher.
We'll come back. We'll talk to the head coach of the Co-Lin Wolves, Coach Micah Davis, right after we take this time out. You're listening to, of course, the world famous. Well, I don't know if it's world.
We'll go with that.
Well, local famous. Well, I don't know. You listen to Chasing Foul Balls Friday morning edition right here on SuperTalk Pike County. Welcome back, Chasing Foul Balls, the Friday morning edition right here on SuperTalk Pike County. Last night, Co-Lin gets a big win over East Central. Final score of that one 28-3. On the phone with us, the head coach of the Co-Lin Wolves, Coach Micah Davis. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
All right. You're doing a lot better after last night, aren't you?
Yeah, it makes it a whole lot easier on Friday morning after a win.
Last night, kind of a tough game to get started in the first quarter and a half or so, kind of slow going, but once the Wolves got it going, you took control of that game and walked away with it.
Yeah, so, we had to deal with sophomore night and being homecoming, so it was, a little bit out of the ordinary for our guys to get ready, but, once they finally settled in, it started looking good for us.
Help me out, Coach, on the way the playoffs will be for the Mississippi Community College. In the South Division, you got 3 teams right now with 1 loss, Co-Lin, along with Gulf Coast and Hines. How will this all work out? I know Hines and Gulf Coast play next week, so I'll take care of one of them. But how's it going to work out, and how do you decide the champion of the South Division?
So with us winning last night, we're actually already in, and so we're already in there. So we're waiting on to see what happens between Gulf Coast and Hines. If Gulf Coast wins, we're going to be the 1 seed, and they'll be the 2 seed. And if Hines wins, they'll be the 1 seed, and we'll be the 2 seed. But we're all basically.
That's it. It goes.
Yes, sir.
One question before we really get deep into the Co-Lin team. Your dad is going into the Delta State Hall of Fame, Glenn Davis. I know you have to be proud of that.
I am. It's kind of exciting. Luckily, I was actually put in it a couple of years ago, so now he's in it, and we get to kind of celebrate together.
How is it replacing Dad as the head football coach?
It's filling big shoes, I can promise you that. But luckily, I get to lean on him and ask him questions, and he's still helping me on game days, and he's in the box, so it gives me an extra set of eyes. But it's exciting.
I saw him at the Southwest game and asked him how kind of big salary he had being the press box coach. He said he had got a place to stay that night. Is that his salary?
Yeah, pretty much, and Caesar James kid.
Yeah, that's the big part right there, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Coach Davis, this is Richard Hay, and congratulations on a great season up to this point. Got one more game to play, and looking at the scores from this year, your defense has only given up more than 20 points twice.
Right.
2-point loss to Hines and a 1-point win over Gulf Coast. Now that you're in the playoffs, defense wins championships. Talk about how well they've played as a unit, and how do you scheme differently to all the different teams in Mississippi JUCO, or is it just one way that you do it and you just take care of it that way?
Well, it starts with Coach Gordon and Coach Johnson and Coach Wade, and they do a great job every week. They demand excellence from those guys, and they really get after it on defense, and that's what they've done all year. And we've got a really good group that is able to basically go against anything that they see, and they've done a good job. We had about 4 guys that were out last night. About 3 of them were starters, and hopefully we get those back this week. But overall, all year they've done a great job, and especially against the run. I think they've only allowed, I guess, per game about 40 yards a game. So but last night our defensive backs played well, and I'm just excited what they can do as we continue to go.
Coach, this is Wes Nunnery here. Thanks for joining us. Your running back, Martavius Boswell, he is a one-man wrecking crew. If my numbers are correct, he's got just shy of 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns through 8 ball games. Talk about what he brings to the table.
I mean, he's world-class speed. In high school, I think he was a 10 100-meter guy, 10 200-meter guy. So, I mean, he's track speed without a doubt. And, last night you got to see a little bit more of him running through the tackle and, running power and counter and that type of stuff. And, they loaded the box up, but he was still able to get, 8 to 10 yards, per run. And it was the first game that he didn't break 100, I think, in the entire season. So, but no, he's a guy that's doing really well, and I'm excited he's on our football team.
Coach Davis, Richard Hay again. With one game left, but you already locked up a playoff spot. How tough is it to keep the kids focused on the process, because you don't want to have a lull and then the next week be playing in the playoffs? Where's that balance to keep them on edge?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to keep them on edge with this game that you still got to play before the playoffs.
And we talked about it already. We had an 8 o'clock meeting, and they understand what's at stake for us, and they understand that, the momentum to keep going into the playoffs. So we're going to prepare like it's just a normal game, and which it is, and, to get ready to play a good Northeast team.
You talked about the defensive numbers earlier. You have got 2 big studs up front in defensive end, Lonnie Smith, and the linebacker, Archie Chambers. I know you have to be glad those are dressed in the blue.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, Lonnie's a great pass rusher. What we do defensively. If he was in any other system, he'd probably lead the nation in sacks. But he does a lot with the run game and the pass game. So he's not as much of a pass rusher as he probably could be. But with what he does, I mean, he's hard to block, and I am glad he's on our team. And then Archie, he's a sideline to sideline guy, make tackles, drop into space and pass coverage, and even had an interception versus Gulf Coast. But I mean, he's a great football player, and like I said, I'm super excited they're both on our football team.
Coach, you finish up the season up at Northeast. I know you probably haven't had a whole lot of a chance to get into game prep for those guys yet, but from what you know of them, what kind of challenges do Northeast present?
They're a whole lot more improved than what last year. They're doing a lot more stuff on offense. I think their quarterback's playing really well. And last night, I know they beat Itawamba, who was actually in the lead in the north half up there. But I think overall they're a whole lot better team. I mean, Coach Davis is a great coach up there, and he does a great job every year. And I think 2 of the 3, losses that they had were within a possession. I know they lost to East Mississippi by a field goal at the end, and I think they were beating Northwest there towards the end too. So they're a good football team, and we just got to be able to play our kind of football.
Coach, you moved up from the assistant coach to being the head coach. What is the hardest thing to do as the head coach that you didn't realize would be, besides putting up with people like us?
No, I guess big thing was, divvying out, more stuff to do instead of trying to take it on myself. I still do a lot of the same stuff I do as assistant coach, but I'm having to kind of spread it out a little bit more with the staff. And, I have a great staff. They all have bought into everything. And, and I guess another thing is being the one person having to make the final decision. That was the thing I had to learn and, to make sure that protected the football team. And I kind of understand now why my dad was so stressed at times and, just having to learn how to deal with all that.
Coach, this is Richard Hay again. Talking about that stress, and all football coaches that I've ever known or watched have never been satisfied. There's always something. So you're 7-1, you've locked up a playoff spot, you're on the road for your final game. But what's the one thing that might keep Coach Micah Davis awake at night thinking, like, if we could only get better in that?
I guess playing all 4 quarters together. I don't know if we've done it all year. Either the offense has helped out the defense or the defense has bailed out the offense. If we could put it all together, that's the biggest thing, and just trying to figure out, where and how to fix that. We at practice or during the game, So if we can just get that all together, I think we can be, pretty dangerous to deal with.
Coach, how is it having to recruit during the season? With community colleges, basically you turn that roster over every other year. How is it having to recruit while you're still playing during the season? How does that work out?
I mean, it's a 24/7 deal, 365 days. And the good thing is we're having some success, so we're getting a little bit more attention, and people kind of see about us. We got a really big sophomore class, so we're going to have to replace a bunch of guys. So we're able to tell some guys coming in, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to possibly play right away, and that's definitely attractive to us. But it's a thing that never stops. Our coaches are constantly on the phone, and I'm on the phone with players, and just trying to get the best kids to come in and play and be a Wolf.
Coach Davis, Richard Hay again. From somebody on the outside looking in, and we watch all the sports and we hear about it, as Robbie said, talking about the recruiting, how has the NIL and the collective that happens at the major schools affected what happens at the junior college level?
Well, it kind of first starts as, there's not many people that don't qualify anymore. Everybody's qualifiers because the ACT doesn't, they don't need it anymore. But when it gets to money, you used to could get transfers here and there from schools, but some of them kids are getting paid, $20, $40, $60, $80,000 a year, and then they're having to leave those schools, and we don't have that type of money to be able to pay them. But you'll get some guys. We get the guys that may are ineligible for that that semester or something. That's the ones where we kind of make a little push forward to come here because money is not involved with it. But some of them guys that they're having to pay off cars and that type of stuff that they're not really looking to come to junior college and have to have a note and barely be able to pay for it. But that's kind of where it's hurt us the most with NIL, and we're working on some things trying to get it going here at Co-Lin. I mean, obviously it's going to be at a smaller scale, but we're working on it to try to help our guys. And obviously, when I was playing, I would love to get paid myself. So, but we are working on it and trying to figure something out, and just to benefit our guys too.
Your statesmen doing pretty good this year.
Say that one time.
So your Delta State statesmen doing pretty good this year.
They are. I think one loss. I had a big game, big win for homecoming. So Coach Cooley's doing a good job up there.
When you see your dad, tell him we said hello, would you?
Yes, sir. I definitely will.
Thanks for taking your time after a big win last night, Coach, and good luck headed to the playoffs.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Coach Micah Davis, the head football coach at Co-Lin Community College, first year as the head coach there, and had his Wolves 7-1 on the year as they head up to Northeast next Thursday night. We'll come back. We'll talk more. Saints, Pelicans, LSU, you name it. We got it coming right here on SuperTalk Pike County, Chasing Foul Balls, Friday morning edition.
Sports. And now sports.
You're listening to Chasing Foul Balls on SuperTalk Pike County 93.5 and streaming everywhere on the SuperTalk Mississippi app. Chasing Foul Balls is presented by First Bank and brought to you by East Macomb Body Shop and Guy's Pharmacy. Now back to Chasing Foul Balls on SuperTalk Pike County 93.5.
Welcome back. Thanks to Micah Davis, the head football coach up at Co-Lin, coming on with us after that win last night. One thing before we go to Richie Miller, Southwest SID Travis Connolly is resigning. He is going down to Ponchatoula to become a track coach there. So Southwest losing the SID Travis Connolly. Good luck to Travis on his next stop, that's for sure. He's always been a good guy. And one other thing, the South Pike Macomb football game next Friday night. They are moving that game up to play it at 5:30 in the afternoon instead of a 7 o'clock kickoff. Of course, that is on a Friday Halloween night. So that football game has been moved up to play that one at 5:30. Join us on the phone, the sports director of WGNO-TV in New Orleans, Richie Miller. How are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Richie, glad you could be with us this morning. A lot going on in the city, to say the least, with the Pelicans getting started and the Saints kind of struggling along a little bit. Let me ask you this, the hope-o-meter for the New Orleans Saints fans, how are they?
A little disappointed, but, going into the season, I was a firm believer in low expectations. And you have to have that with a first-year head coach, an aging roster, a ton of youth surrounding it, a starting quarterback that you drafted in the 5th round. So I'd say there's a ton of optimism, but still disappointment for a fan base that, got so used to winning and contending in the NFC. So maybe some disappointing optimism. That's the best way I'll describe it.
Well, you go from that to Tulane, who is winning and really had the meter turned the other direction. It's a lot of excitement in New Orleans right now about Tulane.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see the day where Tulane's college football playoff odds might have been better than the LSU Tigers, but that's just the reality we live in. The conference they play in right now, super impressive. Their resume is maybe second to none right now. I'm a firm believer that the winner of the American Conference is going to have a college football playoff spot. And everyone in the city of New Orleans right now hopes that that's the Tulane Green Wave. I mean, they're red hot right now, finding different ways to win. 60 new faces on their roster. And head coach John Summerall is going to be a hot commodity for some SEC school here. when the season's over. But nobody wants to say that out loud right now. Nobody wants to think about it. They just want the Green Wave to contend for a conference championship and a college football playoff spot, and they're in a good position to do it. I think it's going to come down to their last game of the season against Memphis, who was also flirting with the top 25. They have a win over Arkansas, but their conference schedule until then is brutal. They play next Thursday night, and they're not looking past UTSA on October 30th.
Richie, it's Wes Nunnery. Thanks for joining us this morning, my friend.
My man, what's up, Wes?
Going back to the Saints, there's reason for optimism and all that, but can you tell me any good news with the Saints? Because there is not a whole lot of good news right now. Give me a little ray of sunshine where the Saints are concerned.
So initially when the schedule was released, it was hard to find 5 wins, and that was just my opinion. Looking at it, maybe giving them a split on divisional opponents. So I said it in the early stages of the season they would win 5 games, and it might not be that at this point, but the optimism, you have a young quarterback you drafted in the 5th round that really has not lost ball games for you, outside of a loss to Seattle where that game just kind of took on a life of its own. You can't control those football games, as you would know that from playing football. But and then the loss to Chicago, you're playing a team with a defensive coordinator that's familiar with every facet of your game. He drafted you when he was the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and they were one of the top takeaway units in the entire NFL. So Spencer Rattler was already sort of set up to fail in that regard. But I think now if you're Kellen Moore, year one, this was a mulligan for him, a chance to see what the aging talent on this roster was still going to give him, and what these young pieces were going to do, and if they were going to be a part of Kellen Moore's team next year. So I think if you look at what Spencer Rattler's done up to this point, I think that is optimistic, given the fact that Kellen Moore's come in, Scott Tolzien's come in. He has so many former quarterbacks around him that have really elevated his game, and I think Spencer Rattler is going to be a part of what this team does moving forward. But the beauty of their 17-game schedule, you now get a chance at some point to see what Tyler Shuck did, and you have to, because you spent a second-round draft pick on him, and I think we'll see that on the back end of the schedule. But with every little grain of optimism, you see some sort of negativity here. Center Eric McCoy goes out with a bicep injury. He's out for the rest of the season. I think he's been the most important player on this roster, if not on the offense alone. And so it's going to be hard to evaluate moving forward, but there have been a ton of positives. This team's exciting. They're young. They're competitive. And this is probably the most fun that I've had watching a New Orleans Saints football team in a long time.
We're speaking with Richie Bills, the sports director, WGNO-TV in New Orleans.
Richie, this is Richard. Hey, let's stay with the Saints for this question. It's getting that point of the season, as you mentioned. We're approaching somewhat to halfway. There's a lot of talk about trades. You mentioned the aging team, the guys on defense, some of the guys on the offense. What have you heard about potential trades, or some things that you think would be something you would trade for to where you could help us out to going down the road?
So I think the Saints are comfortable with the talent that they already have in their house. They're familiar with them. They love them to death. I don't think they're actively shopping people at this point, but I do believe that they are fielding offers. A guy like Chris Olave comes to mind. Every time you pull up social media, there's a report that a team had reached out to the Saints. So I think at this point, and look, a guy like Chris Olave, 5 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns against Chicago, might have been his best game of the season. He's not necessarily an alpha wide receiver in the NFL like we're used to seeing with some of these big-name guys, but I think for an opposing team, he'd be the perfect piece to complement maybe who their number one might be. And look, I don't think they're actively shopping people, but the Eric McCoy injury definitely puts things into perspective. So now I think they will field calls a little bit more open-minded in a sense, because whether or not they want to admit it, whether or not Saints fans want to admit it, they are about to enter a rebuild if they're not already in it, which is crazy to consider for an organization that's never had to be in a rebuild. So for the New Orleans Saints, I think before this trade deadline here in about a week or two, I think you could see some movement just based off of everything that's transpired up to this point.
Richie, let's switch over to the basketball side of things. Pelicans open up their season Wednesday night. They drop a tight one on the road to the Grizzlies. but there seems to be a lot of build on there, especially from the number 7 overall pick, Jeremiah Fears. You can see there's a lot to like about him. What's the feeling around the Big Easy about the Pelicans this year?
Kind of the same thing with the Saints. You know, a young team that's super excited. I think they have about a dozen players that are 25 years or younger. So just to put in perspective how young this basketball team is, but you got the whole Pelican experience in game one. They jumped out to a double-digit lead. You got a fast start. They blew the lead. Somebody got hurt, and then they lost. So really you had the whole Pelicans experience there in their opener. But no, they're young and exciting. Whether or not they contend for anything this season is really determined on the health of Zion Williamson. And, when he's been healthy, he's been invested. You've seen the capabilities of this team. I mean, a couple of years ago when Zion was in great shape, he was playing great basketball, he was mentally invested. They were contending for the top spot in the Western Conference. I think people believe that. I remember being in Golden State a couple of years ago talking about championship expectations for this team and how realistic they were. Now, will they do that this year? Nobody really knows. It's all determined on health. And I know that's something that people don't want to hear, especially with the history of your star playing being hurt. And then, of course, Yves Missi on Wednesday night, going out with the right ankle sprain. He's expected to miss a couple games. So they're young and exciting. The rotation, they're still figuring that out. But you mentioned Jeremiah Fears. I mean, I loved the pick. I thought this team had been missing a true point guard, and you got one who was 18 years of age, probably plays with a tenacious mentality of a 30-year-old vet and someone that is not afraid of the big moment. And you saw that with about 17 points in their opener. When they needed a big shot to end a Memphis run, he took it to the cup each and every time. I love the mental makeup of a guy like Jeremiah Fears. I think he's going to be a star in New Orleans. Derek Queen, I think he's going to come along a little bit slower. That's their other lottery pick. I don't like what they gave up to get him, but I do think he's going to be a solid piece for this team and Joe Dumars moving forward.
Richie, this is Richard Hay once again. We've only got an hour show, and we've covered a lot of sports in the sports-crazed state of Louisiana, but give me your opinion and start wherever you want to about what's wrong with LSU.
Oh, man, you got 3 hours?
No.
So I think let's start with unrealistic expectations. And I think, when you see a team load up through the transfer portal on these high-profile names, I think you start to see the unrealistic expectations come with that, especially when you look at the offensive line, the fact that you have to replace a guy like Will Campbell, a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, Emory Jones, who was considered maybe an early round pick at some point. And then they also lost a couple other draft picks on the offensive line. So initially, you see them load up on receivers in the portal, and you're thinking to yourself, what about the offensive line? And now you're seeing sort of the shortcomings of the offensive line come to light. Poor Garrett Nussmeier was out there against Vanderbilt. Now, granted, Vanderbilt is known to bring about 7 on pressures at any given moment in a game. Every time he snapped the football, it just felt like there were 3 defenders closing in on him, and he was having to throw under duress. So, and their inability to run the football certainly has shed some light on the offensive line, who now is a little banged up after their matchup with Vanderbilt. So that's one thing. And then the preseason injuries to Garrett Nussmeier, whether it be an MCL or a torso injury, that's definitely impacted the explosive nature of the offense that a lot of people expected. I think overall, a lot of things that we've really heard from Brian Kelly and company is just physicality. And you sort of notice that with the way that they're playing right now, how they're struggling against bad teams and how they can't beat good teams. So I think physicality, the overall nature and everything has really held this team back from their true potential. Now, with all of that being said, I believe they're going to be Texas A&M Saturday night.
All right, here's the question, Richie. I asked this to the guys last week, and I'm going to bring it back to you. There's 3 phases of a college football coach. There's the honeymoon, there's the please don't leave, and there's the door. Where is Brian Kelly with LSU fans right now?
with the fans, it's definitely the here's the door approach, but the only thing keeping him from it is probably his contract at this point. I mean, he signed a monstrous contract. The buyout is going to be significantly larger than what we saw Florida potentially having to pay Billy Napier. So, I mean, look, that's just the extreme that LSU fans want to jump to when the team is not playing the way they are. And it kind of goes back to the unrealistic expectations. And I completely understand them. There's NFL talent across this entire roster, and there has been in years past. And you can make the case that they've underperformed. Back-to-back 10-win seasons followed by a 9-win season. That's not something in Baton Rouge that's sustainable. But again, you know, they're not entirely out of the college football playoff picture. I believe there's a lot of meaningful football left to be played. I'm a firm believer that a win over Texas A&M Saturday will sort of help remedy whatever nasty taste is in the LSU fans' mouth right now. And I say that because Texas A&M, you know, for all the good that they've done this year, an undefeated football team that's found different ways to win. Brian Kelly is 23-2 at Tiger Stadium in his LSU career. So I think that, and just the case that Texas A&M's been so inconsistent, will sort of help keep him from that here's the door approach and mentality that LSU fans might have right now.
Well, Richie, you've got some connections to this area. Tell us about Richie Mills and how you got to New Orleans.
Oh, wow. So I originally grew up in Chalmette, Louisiana. Hurricane Katrina displaced me and my family to Macomb, Mississippi. Attended Park Lane Academy in Macomb, and that's where I wound up graduating with Mr. Nunnery there, class of 2011. I think we have, 50 people in our graduating class?
57. Don't short us, Richie. 57.
57, okay. But went to Southeastern Louisiana University, loved sports, played sports at Park Lane, wanted to stay around it. So Southeastern's broadcast program is one of the top in the nation. Didn't realize that until I got there. And then, first TV job in 2016 was Lafayette, went to Shreveport after that. And then 2018 got to New Orleans, started doing sports in 2020. And I've been doing it ever since. I love it so much, covering sports in my hometown. This was my end game. So here I am doing the thing.
You got high school to cover tonight, or you'll go get to see Wimbignana play?
Oh, no, sir. I'm on the high school beat tonight. We have a 1-hour high school football show called Friday Night Football. Been around for 34 years now. This will be my second year hosting it. Of course, it was founded by my late sports director, who tragically passed away a little over a year ago from a heart attack. But I fell in love with this programming, and it's an honor to carry it on in his memory and his name. And I don't take any of it for granted, that's for sure.
Well, Richie, we sure appreciate the time you took this morning to be with us, and we'll get back with you. We'll talk a little bit more Saints and Pelicans.
Absolutely. Appreciate the time, guys. Wes, take care, buddy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, buddy.
Thank you, Richie. We appreciate it. We'll come back. We'll talk to Big Daddy next. Looking for a bank that feels like home? First Bank is here for you. There's 14 locations across southern Mississippi. They're your local bank for checking, savings, loans, and more. Now, whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or you just need everyday banking made easy, First Bank, ready to help you. Stop by your nearest branch, or you can visit firstbankms.com. You can do that today or anytime. First Bank, where customers and community matter most. Member FDIC at Equal Housing Lender. And let's go quickly to talk to Big Daddy. Reese Dudley on the phone with us. First question, Reese. 3-0 with Southern Miss. First time since 2004 in conference play. USM is favored in all 5 of the remaining games. What's your thoughts to that?
Well, Robert, we're kind of playing real well right now, I think. And you look at on paper, it always looks good. I think there's ESPN's got 2 games that we're pretty well matched with whoever we're playing. I think Texas State is one of them, and I can't recall the other one off the top of my head. But otherwise, it looks like we got at least 2 games that we're heavily favored with. All we want to do is get bowl eligible this year. Of course, we'd love to make the conference, and the way things are lining up, the conference looks like a real possibility.
Big Daddy, this is Richard. listening to a local sports talk show that comes on this station in the afternoon the other day. They were talking about playoffs and all the different scenarios. And they laid out a scenario with what you just somewhat talked about, that if you finish the season like y'all want to finish it and certain things line up right, they mentioned playoffs and Southern Miss in the same sentence. Did you think last year when there was a coaching change that would even be a possibility this year?
I'll refer to Jim Moore. Playoffs? No, absolutely not. And it's just been a wonderful turnaround and a great year, and we really enjoyed it. Hope we're going to enjoy a whole lot more of it.
Top job openings in college coaches: Florida, Penn State, Arkansas. Which one would you take?
Well, I'm going to refer back to the old days. I'd take Florida. I think it's just the state of Florida's got so much high school talent, and I think they've got plenty of money too. So I know everybody does. I know Arkansas does with the Walton money, and Penn State always has. But I just think that everybody and his brother recruits Florida because there's just so much talent there.
Big Daddy, is Lane Kiffin going to Gainesville?
I'd say it's 50-50, and maybe a little bit higher than that. They make the right deal. I think he knows what I know, and I think he can win a national championship at Ole Miss, but I think it'd be a whole lot easier to win one in Florida with all the talent there is in that state. And, you know, you talk about Miami and Florida State, but really the university in Florida is the University of Florida Gators. I think people would be recruits would be highly attracted to that. Of course, money is going to be a big issue. I don't know about their NIL, but I'm sure it's way up there with anybody else.
Dodgers or the Blue Jays in the World Series?
Well, I kind of would like to see the Blue Jays because I think baseball's problem is there's never been it's always been the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox. But I think the Dodgers are probably going to be the one.
When we look through when we were talking with the Saints, everybody seems to think, or I say people that make decisions, that Rattler is doing a pretty good job as a Saints quarterback. I got a question. If you can't score, how does a pro team expect to win?
Well, I think expectations are so low for the quarterback situation that people are happy with. Now, to his credit, Rattler's not really cost him a ball game. He's been he's managed it pretty well. He's made mistakes, but everybody else does too. But I just don't think anybody thought he was going to be anything, and he's been a little bit more better than they thought. So I think there's a very positive vibe about him.
When you leaving to go to the ball game?
Well, we're going to head over tomorrow and get there in time for all beginning of homecoming festivities. All of our RVing buddies are not making it this weekend for various reasons, so we decided we'd just drive over.
Well, have a safe trip. Enjoy the ball game, and good luck to the Golden Eagles come tomorrow against Louisiana. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Robbie.
Big Daddy visiting. A couple things we need to get through before we do get out of here. Glenn Davis, who we mentioned earlier, will be a former Co-Lin coach, Delta State's Hall of Fame, be inducted to there. The SMCC Sports Hall of Fame, Maggie Jackson Slayton and Stacy Mack. Those are to the Sports Hall of Fame tomorrow over at Southwest. North Pike's 2010 4A South State champions. They have their reunion tonight. They'll have a reception that'll start about 5 o'clock at the North Gate over at Southwest over at John I. Hurst Stadium. And then they'll have halftime recognition. Well, guys, that's another Friday. Boy, went pretty fast this week, didn't it?
Well, that was a loud show. We had a lot covered in that one.
It covered a lot of stuff. We'll be back next Friday right here on Chasing Foul Balls on SuperTalk. And it will be on, of course, right here on SuperTalk Pike County 93.5. Don't forget tonight, the North Pike football game, North Pike and Laurel. We'll see you next Friday.
Everybody's looking for romance. I just want a little time to dance. And tomorrow we can sleep all day. Before tonight we'll let the music play. You remember how it used to be. I love the way that you would dance with me. Rocking and rolling till the clock unwinds. And then we'd holler out one more time. Don't turn out the lights, the party ain't over. Well, the band just started to play my favorite song. I just found my baby and I want to get a chance to hold her. So don't turn out the lights, the party ain't over. I said don't turn out the lights. Don't turn out those lights. Don't turn out the lights, the party ain't over.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.